global news update on top Accolade news. The headlines: Mexico City mayor's aides killed. ICE deports 2 Asian immigrants to South Sudan. US tariff create tension among G7 members. Iran and Russia approve 20-year strategic partnership. We start with the focus in politics. Mexico City mayor's aides killed. Mexico City's Mayor Clara Brugada confirmed that her personal secretary and top advisor were shot dead early Tuesday in the capital's Modena neighborhood. The attack, believed by analysts to be a targeted hit by organized crime, occurred around 7 a.m. as the two sat in a vehicle on the busy thoroughfare. The mayor, visibly shaken, vowed to continue fighting insecurity, while the president, a close ally and former mayor of the city, condemned the killings and promised justice. Questions are now being raised about the lack of security for sure high-ranking officials as the capital sees a rise in homicides this year. Still in politics, ICE deports 2 Asian immigrants to South Sudan. 2 Asian immigrants originally from Myanmar and Vietnam were deported to South Sudan from a Texas ICE detention center in direct violation of a federal court order, the attorneys said on Tuesday. The men were awaiting immigration hearings where their lawyers learned that they had been abruptly placed on a flight to the war-torn East African country, raising concerns about legal and human rights concerns. A federal judge in Boston had previously barred the U.S. government from deporting migrants to dangerous third-party countries without proper notice and a chance to object. Attorneys said the men were removed without due process, and the Department of Homeland Security has yet to respond to the allegations. Turning to economy, U.S. tariff creates tension among G7 members. U.S. tariff are causing rising tensions among G7 members as finance ministers gather in Canada ahead of next month's crucial summit. According to Canada's finance minister, Trump's aggressive trade policies are creating uncertainty, with other G7 countries looking to resolve trade disputes ahead of the meeting. While the U.S. aimed to address economic imbalances and challenge unfair practices, including those of China, European officials have voiced concerns over tariff impact on job security and economic stability. As discussion focused on global issues like Ukraine and artificial intelligence, the contentious trade policies are expected to dominate the agenda, potentially influencing agreement on broader economic strategies. Moving to international relations, Iran and Russia approved 20-year strategic partnership. Iran's parliament has approved a 20-year strategic partnership agreement with Russia, signaling a significant strengthening of military and economic ties between the two nations. Signed earlier this year, the pact outlined joint defense cooperation, including military exercises and closer collaboration against common threats, though it does not include a mutual defense clause. The agreement also seeks to enhance economic relations, such as a direct interbank cooperation and the promotion of national financial products. The move comes amid growing ties between Russia and Iran since the outbreak of the Ukraine war, with Iran accused by Western nations of supplying weapons to Russia. You're watching the Global News Update on Top Accolade News. Do stay with us. Still to come. Thanks for staying with us. Still in international relations, Ukraine urges EU to toughen sanctions on Russia. Ukraine is set to urge the European Union next week to adopt sweeping new sanctions against Russia, including asset seizures and penalties on foreign buyers of Russian oil, as US President Donald Trump backs away from imposing fresh restrictions. A new Ukrainian white paper calls on EU to take a more aggressive and independent stance amid concerns that Washington is stepping back for multilateral sanction efforts. The proposal includes measures to fast-track asset confiscations, introduce secondary sanctions, and shift decision-making away from requiring full consensus among EU members. Kyiv warns that US disengagement could fracture EU unity, but insists that this moment should empower Europe to take the lead in holding Moscow accountable. Insecurity. Trump unveils $175 billion Golden Dome missile shield. President Donald Trump has announced the launch of a massive $175 billion missile defense initiative dubbed the Golden Dome, aimed at countering advanced threats from China and Russia. Modeled on Israel's Iron Dome but expanded for global threats like hypersonic missiles and orbital weapons, the satellite-based system will be led by Space Force General Michael Goodley. Trump said the initial $25 billion funding is part of his broader One Big Beautiful Bill awaiting congressional approval. The ambitious defense shield, reminiscent of the Star Wars, faces scrutiny over costs, procurement transparency, and the possible involvement of Elon Musk's SpaceX, which is vying for major contracts alongside defense giants like Lopez. The system is targeted at partial deployment by 2026, despite skepticism over feasibility and funding. Moving to entertainment, Jennifer Lopez sued for sharing paparazzi photos without permission. Jennifer Lopez is facing a lawsuit from photographer Edwin Blanco and the paparazzi agency Blackbird after she posted photos of herself at an Hollywood party without proper authorization. The pictures taken at the Amazon MGM Studios and Vanity Fair party before the Golden Globes in January shows Lopez in a white dress and Fox 4 coat. The photographer and agency claimed the star used the images for self-promotion, including boosting her social media engagement and promoting her brand partnerships. They are seeking up to $150,000 in damages per photo. Lopez's representatives have not yet responded to the legal filing. Now in sports, Manchester City moves to top 3. Manchester City secured a 3-1 win over Bournemouth on Tuesday with an emotional farewell from captain Kevin De Bruyne in his final home appearance. City's victory propelled them to third place in the Premier League, with Champions League qualifications still within reach. The match saw both teams finish with 10 men. De Bruyne, who has been instrumental in City's success over the past decade, was substituted to a standing ovation in the 69th minute, surrounded by his family, and was honored with a post-game guard of honor. The club also announced plans for a statue in his honor. That concludes our global news update for today. Stay tuned for more global news and developments. Thanks for joining us. I am Ojorume Okocha. Connect and engage with us on all our social media handles. Do have a wonderful day.